What's up, guys? This is Ray. So today's the 17th of March, 2017, and if you've been paying attention to some of my recent videos, I've been kind of getting on a tangent about paranormal activity or kind of, Neptunian slash Plutonian kind of uh, themes, topics. So one particular thing that I've actually discussed in personal conversations with some of my friends over the years, some of my friends that are fans of horror or people that are possibly concerned about the realistic threats of potential demonic spirits or possession. And just from my own perspective and my own personal experiences throughout my life, and the background that I have with psychology, and also my thorough knowledge with occult associations and science as well, and then being a Plutonian, I'm able to kind of give a more morbid or dark, pessimistic kind of perspective, right? I have a theory on a couple of things, but in this particular video, I'm just going to focus on exorcism and demonic possession. So, 6-7 years ago, I ended up being, having a psychiatric evaluation, and that was the first time that I realized that, because I'm a big fan of horror movies, and I've seen The Exorcist and The Exorcism of Emily Rose and all that stuff. And me being raised in Virginia City, I see a lot of things. And, I'm into the paranormal stuff, and I've seen, like, the Poltergeist movies and, Poltergeist kind of activity and stuff in general, documented things. And after I saw in real life somebody who thinks that they were possessed by the devil, and then thinking about like all the symptoms and behavior and the kind of actions or whatever, and the attitude towards whoever the person is afflicting or interacting with, meaning that the poltergeist or demonic, entities, their motives, what they do to other people when they interact with them. It's quite similar to what I see people that are mentally ill that think that they have demons in them as well. And I'm very, I'm a firm believer. It's not even a believer. I know that I'm aware of how easily it is to condition people's minds. And I do have different theories on how conditioned kind of accepted beliefs and stuff in like mainstream cultures or in larger historically civilizations and cultures and tribes or whatever affect the existence more or less of there being ether spirit consciousness phenomena. So one thing I was just kind of making notes about. So I was researching online looking for actual dates of exorcism events, when those took place, the ages, preferably I would love to have the birth dates. I only have one of someone. The birth dates, I at least got the ages of the person being exorcised, so I can at least make a chart for the year, and at least know where a lot of the generational planets are in play. Because what I'm noticing is that a lot of the exorcism things are also happening with people with mental illness, so that's a give or take. Neptune is associated with the mind. That's part of the facets of the mind that I focus on in my astropsychology book. And it also has to do with spirituality. And also, funny enough, Pluto and Neptune both take a significant time for it to transition to another sign. It could be Uranus influence too, but basically what I'm getting at is that a lot of this activity, regardless if the people survived it or not, if they lived after a significant time, some of them did survive, it did just randomly go away. And I find it fascinating because I haven't done the math or anything, but I noticed that, like, one of them said there was there was a demonic possession of 2 kids, ages 9 and 12, in 2014, which would mean that they were born in 2002 and 2005. And I don't know if that's still ongoing or not. I think they might have resolved it. But another fascinating thing, Anneliese Michel, which is the German daughter the Exorcism of Emily Rose movie is based off of. She was born in 1952. She started to feel the symptoms that are associated, in the movie when she's at school in 1973. And then she ended up, dying in 1976. But you see that was an extensive period of time, so it couldn't necessarily be personal planets per se that would be causing these events. It would be generational. And as I pointed out initially, I am very I have a strong feeling that Neptune is directly involved with this. The only other reason why I mentioned Pluto in particular is because I'm very familiar with poltergeist activity, and just reading kind of back what some of the poltergeists or victims, targets of these events were. Even when you look at like the haunting kind of shows on like Animal Planet or whatever, they provoke violence, they try to scare things, and they, even in some cases, have sexually abused or assaulted people, supposedly. The claims are, right? So, sex, death, power, abuse, those are all key words that are associated with Pluto. So, when I was, more or less, obviously I could be projecting a bit, and just what I know about Pluto in general, I wouldn't be surprised if Pluto's involved. Pluto also does have a facet of your psyche as well. And Neptune being associated with your spirit, your draconic archetype, with mental illness, with dysphoria, neurosis, psychosis, those sorts of things, as well as being ingrained in it's your subconscious ideation. If your subconscious ideations overpower the conscious mind, and you have mental disturbances, you could actually tap into things that you've been exposed to that you may not consciously remember and act out on them. For example, it wouldn't be a far-fetched idea. I'm not saying that this is the reason, but it wouldn't be unbelievable if after in the 1970s that Exorcist movie came out and somebody started having a transit or something that was inhibiting their mercurial manifestations, and they started to experience some sort of Neptune neurosis or, mental dysphoria, or they had an underlying mental instability or condition that then began to surface because they had lack of control because of their Mercury debilitation or whatever. And they could start acting out in similar ways that, Reagan in the Exorcist movie would have acted. Also, the other thing as well, Neptune associated with your soul, and the whole reincarnate process that I've talked about, and the evolution of self. If you can tap into past life information, everybody always says they're always speaking tongues or talking about religious stuff. Well, yes, back in like the medieval times, or back in the Dark Ages, that's all they fixated on. Not only that, but they spoke Latin, and that's a lot of times the language that is so weird that those people are speaking. And then even when you translate what they're saying, they're talking as if they were quoting things right out of religious texts, which again would be something that would be reinforced by the culture kind of influences back then. So it could be an actual projected psychotic episode of your draconic personality coming forward in a specific transit time frame. And like I said, the fact that, where is it here's another one. So, an event of a poltergeist attacking residents in a home, a family in a home, when it went on from 1974 to 1986. So, that's like 12, I'm horrible with math, sorry. That's 12 and a half years, isn't it? Yeah. Neptune cycle. See what I'm saying? Okay. Then I look down here. Another interesting note, like I was saying too, in 1970 the Exorcist movie was introduced to the public, and there was a significant increase in exorcism phenomenon throughout the United States. So once you planted the ideation that exorcisms are legitimately possible, which it was that, what is his name, Roland Doe, he was an actual child that the story is based off of. It was, at least mentioned or emphasized that this is based off of a realistic event. So right there, you're planting the ideation that this is not fiction, despite that the movie was supposed to be perpetuated as fiction. And then the event of an exorcism for a girl named Anna Elkland in 1912. She was 14 years old at the time. I didn't have a birthday for that. And so I assumed since she's 14 in 1912 that she was born in 1898. And the possession went from 1912 to 1928. So again, that would 16 years. So I mean, that's obviously give or take a little bit longer than the other one. But that's the common denominator, that they're at least for 10 plus years. That one could have been directly attributed to Pluto, though. That's what I was thinking. And I'll have to actually cast the charts for those times, because I could probably you saw how horrible my math is. I'm just going to cast the charts for those years and the dates that I have, and see if there's some sort of Scorpio or Plutonic, influence in Neptune at the time. Like if Neptune was in Scorpio, which was right around the time when the Exorcist movie came out, by the way. That would explain some things. But see if I see some sort of correlation with like the House Lord of the 12th house or something like that, or whatever, being associated with Scorpio, or if there's some sort of aspect between Pluto and Neptune that go on for that time frame, because a lot of those, generational things continue to happen over time. For example, the Uranus-Pluto square started in the end of 2007, and it didn't end with its alignments until 2015, and even now, into 2017, when we have Jupiter aspecting those two planets, it's within orb enough for them to aspect more. So as much as they're not supposed to be within orb anymore, because that electromagnetic energy is pulsating to them, they actually are reciprocating energy waves, and it's having effects. The Roland Doe guy that the Exorcist movie is based on, he actually lived, and he's still alive today, and he doesn't have any recollection of any of the phenomenon that happened. So I'll go into more detail about that if you're not familiar with the story. But psychosis, or when people have amnesia or go through psychotic episodes, it's very common for them to not actually remember what happened. Also, in theory, if your Neptune consciousness, or your soul's personality essentially was just in a rage or pissed off or something like that for whatever reason, that would obviously be something that I couldn't necessarily tell you why, decided to have the opportunity and decided to overthrow the consciousness of the ascendant person, they could essentially, take over all the cognitive processes. That's essentially what it does. And instead of the draconic, or the soul, being repressed within a person, the soul could have repressed the conscious mind of the individual, which would translate to them never remembering anything. So those were my theories with that. So with exorcisms and demonic possession, I specifically think that Neptune is influenced significantly. I speculate that the draconic persona is either part of this manifestation or directly a direct catalyst as to why it happens, and a lot of it is brought on by mental illness. Mental illness is definitely a factor here. Not only is mental illness a factor, but the draconic thing also as well. That's the beauty of the multifaceted associations with Neptune, because Neptune represents your subconscious psyche, and it represents your soul, and it represents any kind of mental disturbances. So, and then I think, again, Pluto just screams Pluto to me. And then I just think it's funny, like poltergeist, Pluto, that sort of thing. There's just my psychic thing is really good with just random associations. It's very it's vague, and it's very sporadic. disorganized information. So it'll just be like a chunk of words or chunks of information, or like even a symbol. I'm really good with symbols. I can look at a symbol and kind of tell you what it means. Not anything like, new, but something that's old. So that's just my theory on that. I'm going to do some, research on this. I'm going to make up the charts, and I'll do a follow-up video. I don't know if I'm going to post this as just its own video or not. I might. Actually, I probably will. I'll just do it. And then for all the people who can't pay attention long enough, I'll just, put it all together and then clip out just the required information to at least get what I'm talking about. And you're welcome.
Hello, is there someone there who cares for God-forsaken souls and God-forsaken man? Is there someone there who cares?